that one song took me over a year to like really crack the code.
Access denied. Access denied. Access denied. Hey y'all, it's your host Jessica Jordan, and I'm here on Access Denied, the podcast dedicated to helping you get over your fear of rejection, one episode at a time. Let's go! Hey y'all, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Access Denied. Today's guest is truly epic, and we talk about everything from how scary it can be to change your career to what it's like to create with the world watching. This is a can't miss episode, and it's with the one, the only, Jorge Rivera-Herrans. I am so excited to have him on today. This is a can't miss episode, y'all. Stay tuned. Jorge, welcome to Access Denied. How are you doing today? Oh my goodness.
I am doing so well. It is so good to be here, Jessica. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh my God. I am so freaking excited to have you on the pod. We have crossed paths before in the past.
We have. We have. It's so great to finally get to like talk for longer, you know?
Likewise, 100%. I was thinking in my preparation for this episode, actually, and I feel like your listeners and my listeners might like this little anecdote or whatever, but the first time I was introduced to you was backstage. We were both involved in a school production of Grease.
That was when we first, that's like a decade ago almost. Wow. Wow, so we go way back. Wow, oh my God, I didn't have a beard yet then.
You were so young.
Yeah, oh my gosh, I had longer hair than I did now, you know? I had like the guitar, oh my gosh, that's amazing, I love that, that's where we met.
It was, and I have such a distinct memory of you and Rachel singing Hamilton backstage, just on repeat. And I was just like, okay,
that's
I don't
amazing.
know this yet, but I kind of like this vibe. So, because Hamilton had just come out too. It was.
That's true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Oh my gosh, it's been so much time. That's amazing. It's so glad to reunite after all this time.
Likewise. But that is to say, your experience in musical theater clearly goes way back, and I'm sure even beyond Greece. Yeah. So that's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I did some when I was in high school, my high school had productions of Alice in Wonderland. I was the March Hare in that. We did what was it? Fame. I think I was I forget his name. Nathan Detroit? No, that's not Fame. I think it's Guys and Dolls. I don't know. We did some musicals. I'm forgetting. You know how it goes when you ask oh, what were you in? And then you just forget every single thing. But yeah, so I was in Guys and Dolls. I did some Fame. We did some Alice in Wonderland. We did Into the Woods. That was my first ever musical, so it holds a special place in my heart.
No, okay, wait. What character were you in Into the Woods?
I was in 6th grade, so imagine me much shorter, and a lot cuter. Right? With your cheeks, I was Prince Charming at the time, and Cinderella, and everybody was significantly taller than me. So it's like me and Cinderella. I'm yeah.
Wait, that's amazing. Oh my God.
Thank you. I had been in little class things here and there, but that was my first time where it was oh yeah, we're doing a musical on stage with auditions and it's going to be presented in front of the whole school and everyone's parents. So that was my first foot in musical theater,
That's crazy too, because Into the Woods is such a hard show.
Yeah, it was the junior version. So I think it ends with Act 1. So there's no Act 2 for it.
That's probably best considering the concept.
I didn't know. Oh my gosh. So that rocked my mind, by the way, because I didn't know that there was an Act 2 until years later. Right? I was I think I was talking to somebody and I was oh my gosh, and yeah, I love the ending when everyone's oh, there's a giant, right? And they're what? And I'm yeah, and I love that, this is what happens to these two, and these people, I love that, because if you only have Act 1, it looks like everybody gets their happily ever after. Wild show. I love the show. One of my favorites.
It's so good. The music's incredible. I actually was in a version of it in high school, which
Oh,
is why
sweet.
I know it was so hard. Love musical theater. It also is one of those things where I'm like, I don't know all of the shows I was in. I could like maybe write it down and figure it out, but that's just see how it is in the theater, in the
No,
arts.
totally. Yeah, totally, totally. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so that those were my first kind of like steps into musical theater, and then when I went to Notre Dame, I actually started off in medicine. If you had asked me before I like went to college, like what was I going to do? If you had asked me at any point in my life, I would have told you like, oh, I'm going to be like a cardiovascular surgeon or a urologist or something along those lines, and I believed it. Like my high school had like a medical club. I was like president of that medical club. Was like shadowing surgeons while I was still in high school, at Manatee Medical Center in Puerto Rico. I thought I was going to be a surgeon, but when I was at Notre Dame, right, and I had like some more time and space to myself to really like reflect and think about what are the things that I want. There was a point where, I know this sounds cheesy, but there was a point where I was like going to sleep and waking up thinking about songs that I wanted to write, and I would go to like biochem and chemistry, but I would go to the classes and start sitting in the back. If you saw my notebooks, it would literally say like a chemical equations, and then it would just be lyrics under it, it was getting to the point where I was like skipping classes so I could stay in my dorm room and try writing songs, and yeah, sorry, I feel like I'm just giving you the spiel now.
No, no. Okay, first of all, don't apologize. I love the authenticity of the conversation, but also like I have so many questions about that and like your journey to kind of like figure that out. But just before we get too ahead of ourselves, I'd love it if you could introduce ourselves introduce
Sense.
yourself to the listeners.
Of course, so sorry. He jumped in. It all started when I was born. No. So, hello everybody. My name is Jorge Miguel Rivera-Herrans. I was raised in Dorado, Puerto Rico for my whole life. Before I went to college, I thought I was going to be a surgeon, and then I got to college and I switched to writing songs, and now that's what I do. I'm a songwriter and a playwright, and I like to do whatever I can to entertain, whether that's acting, voice acting, songwriting, just writing in general. And right now, what I believe I am most known for is the musical Epic, which is an adaptation of Homer's The Odyssey. So yeah.
So freaking sick. Getting right back into it though, because I'm so curious. Like the jump from medicine to music is like, first of all, huge in and of itself, but also at a place like Notre Dame, where there's so much pressure to like be a top-notch student. At least that's what I felt all the time. It was just like constant like mental drama to like be the best you can be, achieve greatness, and usually the arts aren't like prioritized, especially at a school like Notre Dame.
Totally. It was terrifying too, just because when I had gotten to the point where I was, I was skipping classes because I was trying to write songs in my dorm room. I was like, going to sleep and waking up thinking about songs and stuff, and it got to the point where I was like sitting down somewhere and I was just like, what am I doing? Like I'm skipping classes because I'm thinking about this, and I'm not focused. I'm not happy. I'm much happier when I'm like singing, writing songs and stuff. And so I didn't tell my family, but I switched majors. I just completely switched. I dropped everything science. I dropped everything, right, and just went straight into the film, theater and television department of Notre Dame. And I remember the day that I did that, my leg, I vividly remember sitting at like the desk where you had to go to for them to like change your major or give you a minor or something. I remember my left leg was like shaking so much, right? Like to this day, I remember being there sitting and I'm like, gosh, why is my leg shaking? I can't get it to stop shaking. I was so stressed out. I made that switch, and then I feel like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? Because it was like, first off, my family, very understandably so, were very like concerned and confused. They're like, what are you doing? My dad and I were at odds with each other for some time. We're super tight now. He's my number one supporter, but he really was, he really wanted that, financial stability for me that comes with, medicine and the medical fields, whereas switching to theater and film and television really felt like a gamble, and everyone was like, what's going on? We knew you your whole life. This has to be a phase. This can't be like really you. That led me to write my first musical, which at the time was called Stupid Humans and is now called My Heart Says Go, which when I was writing it in college, it was about a a med school dropout who wants to become a singer, and his dad wants him to go back to medicine. So not at all inspired by anything I've ever experienced, to be honest. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so I wrote that, and that really was like a huge learning experience for me for learning, the process of writing songs and writing musical theater and how that like process goes, And I'm super thankful to have had that at Notre Dame. But like you said, it felt like a lot of uncharted waters. That was Notre Dame's, if I recall correctly, that was the first ever original musical produced at Notre Dame. What was awesome is that we were all kind of like figuring it out together. Yeah, I feel like I learned so much from that process. And then after that, so that ended in my junior year of college. So I was going into my senior year, and I was walking around being like, yeah, I want to write another musical. I wanted to have all these I want to have like so many characters. I wanted to have gods and monsters in the ocean and sword fights and pirates and love and betrayal and lust and all that and spells and magic and this and that. There was a time, I kid you not, where I thought I was going to write a musical about pirate angels. What was it going to be about? No idea. I just knew I wanted pirates and I wanted them to have wings, right? I obviously didn't end up doing that, but it felt so right to me at the time. But I was going around being like, yeah, I want a musical with this, and this, and this, and that. And every now and then, friends would say like, oh, so like, kind of like the Odyssey. And I was like, I don't know if it's like the Odyssey, because I was like, no, it's different, But then I really thought about the Odyssey for a bit because I had grown up loving the Odyssey. My mom got me a copy of Mary Pope Osborne's adaptation of the Odyssey for children when I was really young. And then when I was in high school, we had to read the Odyssey as one of our, required readings. And so I always have very much enjoyed the Odyssey. And so when I thought about it some more, I was like, yeah, you know what? This could really fit. There's all these different characters, which I love. There's these larger than life themes, and there's a wide variety of different locations. There's a singular main character, which always is, helpful from a writing perspective. Like if there's a main character you can focus on their character arc. And then the thing that I really loved too was that, I love video games and anime, and the Odyssey feels like a video game to me. In the best way possible. It feels like there's boss battles. It feels like the characters are leveling up over time. It's so fun. And so all of that really attracted me to the Odyssey. And so I started writing it around-ish the summer of 2019. And the rest is history.
That is so sick. So I don't have the hugest background with Greek mythology. I will say that.
No worries. Yeah. There's so much of it. There's so Every
so
time
much
I think
lore.
I know something, it keeps on going, and that's part of why it's so fun and amazing,
Agreed. And like I studied the Odyssey in school a little bit, and so like I'm familiar with the story and have obviously heard all of your epic saga and everything. So like I know the gist of it, but how did you like bridge video games, anime, musical theater, Greek mythology? Like these are 4 things that do not mesh just like instantly in one's mind.
It was a process that it took quite some time for me to really like find my voice. If you, for example, there's a lot of like songs in Epic that I refer to there's a lot of drafts of songs in Epic that I call cut songs, right? And what those are was basically I was trying to write a song that captures this moment. Let's say the moment where Hermes gives Odysseus the mole so he can fight Circe, right? There would be like different times where I would attempt to write that, and through each draft, I got closer to really finding my own voice. And what I mean by finding my own voice was there was a point where I was trying to think of like, what is it that I really enjoy? What is it that truly inspires me? And how can I use my inspirations to create something that feels truly authentic to me and my own writing style and, and unique, and all of those things coming together in a great way. Upon like, introspection, I realized, I think what I want to do is really lean into those video game and anime inspirations, And so there are literally times throughout Epic, like several times, where it'll literally say boss battle. Like, for example, when they fight the Cyclops, it says boss battle Polyphemus. Later on, it says boss battle Circe. Later on, it says boss battle Antinous, boss battle Charybdis, boss battle this, boss battle that, And then the final boss battle, Odysseus, right? And so getting to do things like that and really leaning into like, oh, I imagine it like this, and it feels very anime and nature and in style. Leaning into those things really helped me. Like, I feel it really helped me find my voice and create what I like to believe is like a unique experience in Epic. So it really helps that like the Odyssey already has a lot of these elements. Like, it has these larger than life characters and stories that have stood the test of time and really awesome, amazing themes. And then using that and leaning into my inspirations of video games and anime and animation and other things too, of course. I think that's what made it really mesh. I feel like just like really like leaning into those aspects is what made it come together.
Well, it definitely did come together. Like, it's so impressive. Like,
Thank you.
I'm on the precipice of just like working in music very loosely right now, right?
Awesome.
And it's let's not get too excited. But like, I've been working on one song, and the amount of work that's gone into that one song is just like, I can't imagine what you've just done. Like 9
Thank you.
in like such a short.
Thank you.
How do you have the time?
It feels like forever. Well, it feels like forever because, it took like around like 5 years to write everything, There are several things several stars that aligned in a way that allowed me to have the time and space to write Epic. The first one was, I don't know if I should refer to this one as a star. The first one was COVID. So COVID cut my senior year short, right? And I had plans for certain things I was going to do after college with my first musical, but COVID comes in and everything in the whole world pauses for a bit. I went back to my parents' apartment, living with them, and I had all this time to myself. So my parents, I'm very thankful for this, but they were always like, no, stay here with us as long as you want. There's no rush, work on your thing. They became super, super supportive of me and my writing, which was so nice because when I first changed, everyone in the family was like, what are you doing? So for them to have that faith in me, I really appreciate that. And I can never like overstate how helpful it is to someone to believe in them. The world stopped because of COVID. I just had all this time, and the area I was living in, I don't have a lot of like friends here. There's not a lot of things nearby that I tend to go to a lot. And so my days were just kind of like me trying to write Epic and then me listening to a lot of YouTube video essays. Oh my goodness, I have listened to more YouTube video essays than I can count. I love listening to YouTube video essays. I will do it at any time of the day. If I'm like, eating breakfast, I'm one of those guys that when I'm eating, I need to like listen or watch something. So I put the phone down in front of me and I'm just listening to a video essay. And when I say video essays, I'm talking about like video essays about writing, right? So what was super awesome about having all this time and also having YouTube as a resource is that you can learn anything on YouTube these days. How to write character arcs, how to write exposition in a way that is exciting, how to write suspense, how to write villains that are engaging, how to do this, how to do that. All of these things that were there for me in the times when I needed it. So for example, when I got to Get in the Water, it's the second appearance of Poseidon, right? Mm-hmm. In that moment, I needed it to be very intense, and I was struggling. I was writing different like types of song, different drafts, trying to figure out how do I create a tense moment with Poseidon, right? And eventually, I was just like, I'm gonna go on YouTube and look up how to write suspense. And I watched video essays about suspenseful moments in Attack on Titan and suspenseful moments from Alfred Hitchcock movies and things like that. And that was, a huge part of the reason I write the way I do is because of those super helpful video essays, and I took them very, very seriously because those were like my classes after college, so that was super helpful.
Talking about like you can learn anything from YouTube.
Yeah.
I think like another platform that's true is of TikTok, which has obviously been like huge for you and your process and sharing with the world like how you brought Epic to life. And so how did you get started with posting the behind the scenes on TikTok?
That's a great question. So I had been working on Epic for like a few years. I think it was like maybe 2 or 3 or somewhere between 2 and 3 years at that point. And some friends of mine were recommending like, hey, have you considered like posting about this online? And I had like, maybe posted one video about it in the past, like maybe on like Instagram or something, but I hadn't kept up with posting about it because, it wasn't finished, For me, it was like, oh, but it's not done yet, I don't want them to see it before it's finished. But my friends are like, hey, maybe just try it, and if it doesn't work out, you just like stop, And I kept thinking about it, and I was like nervous, and I was worried about it, but I ended up deciding like, okay, I'm gonna try it, just kind of dip my toes in there. And one of the first videos I ever posted online was a video of like one of the first drafts of this song called Full Speed Ahead. And I remember being so stressed out that day that I posted that. I like cried that night. I was stressing. I couldn't sleep. I was texting my friends. Thankfully, I had like a great support system. So they were like, dude, don't worry. It's awesome. Just keep at it. I remember like reading comments that, and just being like, oh, they're gonna think it sucks. It's not finished. They're gonna think it's terrible. This and that. And I was so stressed out. But I made a point to myself to like just be like, hey, just like post one video a day. Be kind to whoever's online, whoever is commenting to you. Just be kind. Post a video a day, and just stick with that for as long as you can. Then if it really becomes like a full suffering fest, then of course maybe stop. Right. So I kept at it, and what was interesting was that the thing that I was so worried about before, which is that it's not finished, ended up kind of being one of the reason to post about it, So like a lot of times in my experience, I have found that it's very hard to find the process of something being made. You might find like some insider scoop on like, oh, here's like, here's some photos that the paparazzi took from the set of this upcoming movie, right? But most times, when we see a project like this, we see it at the end, right? And so I was like, okay, well, I don't know what to post about it. All I'm doing is working on it today, so I'm going to post a progress update, right? And I started doing that a lot, where I started posting progress updates like every week or every few days, progress update this day of the year. I'm currently working on song 22 out of 40, right? This is supposed to happen in the song, and this is what it's sounding like so far. And so what ended up being really cool was that over time, my TikTok became a page where I was documenting the process of creating a musical. I think by the time I got on TikTok for the first time, I was on song like 23. I think I was on the song Scylla, And so, it became really, really cool because a lot of people, a community started building around Epic where we were all in this journey together. I would get to talk about like, hey, so here are the things that are really important to me. I like music and I draw inspiration from this video game and from that. And I like introducing motifs that sound like this and sound like that. I like attaching instruments to characters. And what was really cool is that a lot of amazing people would really start like catching those things and be like, oh, that's cool. And I see what you're trying to do here. And it just made this whole process like so fun, because don't get me wrong, there's times where I was still like sad and being like, man, I can't figure this out. But even being vulnerable about those things online showed like part of the process. There's times where the writer's block is insane and we get depressed, right? So that was part of the process too. I was walking around the neighborhood like head down, all sad because I can't figure out this other Calypso song. But what was really cool is there's a bit of a time capsule in there. You see me with like shorter hair and with no beard, and my face looks even more baby face than it does. And I'm just there like, yeah, and I'm writing the song about the underworld, and this is how I did this, and this is how I did that.
It's so special to me that you were able to document all of that, not just for like the people that follow you and like the people that like love the musical, but like for yourself, and to see your own growth, I think is really powerful.
Yeah, every now and then, like I'll get like comments on like old videos from years ago or things I completely forgot about, and I'll like look at it and then look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, oh my gosh, so much time has passed, and it's so fun. And another thing that really was awesome about posting online and social media was that the network, the reach of community became so much wider than if I had just been doing it myself and going to places in person. So when we first started doing auditions for Epic, so before auditions, right, there were demos, and demos are like primitive versions of recordings, right, where I voice all of the characters. So it'll be me as Athena, and me as Odysseus, and me as Penelope, and me as Calypso, and me as this, and me as that, And then every now and then I would call on like a friend to voice someone. So like Tegan, I'd be like, hey, I think your voice really fits this. Could you try voicing Athena? Could you try voicing this? Could you try voicing that? But a lot of the demos, you just hear like my voice or someone else's voice just playing many different characters. And so there was a point where I was like, okay, well, I really need to, like, in order to truly understand like how these scenes work with each other, I need to hear like actual voices in them. And so I did the first auditions for Epic on like on TikTok primarily, but across social media. And my thought process was anybody can audition. I want it to be so that it doesn't matter how old you are, where you are in the world, nothing matters except can you voice this character? When you sing the song, does it feel truthful and authentic to the character, right? And then for our first character Calypso, who was the first auditions, what was so cool, so like when I say like the reach was wider than ever, I mean like to the extent that like, for example, Barbara Wangui was from all the way from Nairobi, Kenya. I've never been there and I want to go there one day, but I haven't been there yet. And so if I was just like, okay, I'm going to go to this state for a day and I'm going to have an open casting call, maybe if I was lucky at the time, I would have gotten like maybe somewhere between 10 to 50 auditions that day, right? And then sort through those. But when we posted the Calypso audition, within like a week, I think, there was like 1,000 submissions, right? And it was awesome. It was so great. There were so many talented people with such different styles and voices and different approaches to the character. And that in itself was also part of the process. You're getting to see like auditions, you're getting to see other people's auditions and how they tackle it and stuff, and and casting in real time. And so that was a huge part of the community building process, because then it was like, all right, when's the next audition? Aries, and then we got Mocha, who voices Aries, and then I forget what exactly was after that. I think maybe it was like Penelope, and with each of these auditions, we're seeing other people who, even if they didn't get the role, I'm like, I see their voice and I'm like, oh, but they have a really interesting like vibe for this. I'm really excited to see if they'll audition for this other character, or every now and then, like, we'll audition someone. I don't know. Every now and then, I would audition someone, and they might not be the exact fit for this character. But I'll think of like, oh, listen, we're gonna do auditions for this other character. I of course can't guarantee anything, but I would love if you could audition for this other character when it comes in too, because I'd love to hear your take on that. And all of this, throughout the process, because these auditions, you're posting them online, or if someone wants to keep it private, they could email it to, no pressure. But yeah. All of these aspects. And then that was just from the audition side of things, right? And there was a point where I think by the Ocean Saga, I wanted to collaborate with one of the many amazing artists who were creating like animatics or animations about Epic. I noticed like, wow, there's a lot of really talented people who are making animatics and animations. And I was like, how cool would it be if I just called one of them? I reached out to one of them and I was like, hey, do you want to like collaborate with me to make the official trailer for the Ocean Saga for Epic, the official concept album, right? And so at that point, I had reached out to different artists and eventually landed on Wolfie the Witch, who made the first official commissioned animatic for Epic or animation, and it was like a trailer of Poseidon breathing heavy, right? And that, I think, was the point when like, I think that was that and the first audition for Epic were the points where everything changed, right? Because after that, we started like commissioning, like I started commissioning like this artist, hey, can you make an animation for this? And I would send them reference videos of me playing with action figures while moving the camera exactly where I wanted it, so that they know exactly what I'm looking for in the visuals and stuff. And we'd have to like work on like, okay, I imagine the character having this design, he wears this, and there's glowing lines like this. It started becoming real. You could hear what Zeus sounds like, what Poseidon sounds like. For example, for the trailer for the Ocean Saga, that was the introduction of Poseidon. So you could hear, oh, this is what Poseidon's voice sounds like. It's like smoky and raspy, and dark, right? And then you see the trailer that's animated Poseidon. He's got long hair. He's got the blue glowing gill lines on his sides, and you're like, damn, and that's what he looks like. And it feels real. You're actually experiencing the story, and that was so cool. And so, from auditioning, and anybody in the community, anybody can audition, and then commissioning artists within the community who were already making such awesome, their own animatics interpretations of the snippets that were out, but then getting to reach out to them and be like, okay, here's something no one has heard yet, and here's how I'm imagining this and that, getting to do all that. I really feel like that and just hanging out with the community made Epic,
100%. I think the reach like speaks for itself with like how many streams you get and how like popular your videos are and everything. And I want to commend you because that's not easy to do. I mean, you started with like this concept of meshing all four of these things that like what?
Thank you so much.
And then to be able to have a community out of that truly has been involved in the process, I think is so, it's an artist's dream in so many ways.
I'm very, very thankful for it, and the community has always been so fun. And like also getting to really interact with the community, through social medias, through Discord. Discord was like a huge, like awesome hub for the Epic community. We would do like games. I'd jump in VC and play games with them, or like we would do every now and then I would do an Epic challenge, right? Which is like, okay, I'm going to like ask you like some trivia questions, or I'm going to frame it as boss battle. You are Odysseus and you're fighting, Circe and her chimera, and to win you have to answer these questions correctly, but every time you get it wrong you lose 20 HP. Every time you get it right, Circe and her chimera lose 20 HP, and the goal is to whoever loses first, so stuff like that, super super exciting. And doing that, it really allowed us to like all bond over our mutual and shared excitement and enthusiasm for entertainment, and when I was writing Epic, I really wanted to create something that I would enjoy as a consumer. I like to think that I did that because I enjoyed making it and listening to the songs over and over and over and over and over again for years, and then finally getting to release it and just enjoy it with everybody. But yeah, I do think that one of the best things about Epic is the Epic community, really, because there's everyone is so kind, everyone is so supportive, everyone is so like talented. Everyone is so cool and fun, and it made this journey, this harrowing journey of writing this friggin' mega musical, this huge musical, 40 full-length songs with like 30 different characters from beginning to end, and like all these ensemble voices that takes place in like a wide variety of different locations, from the underworld to a palace to a ship that flies up in the air to an island in the sky to the depths of Poseidon's lair to to a friggin' other dimension because Athena has this power, that telepathy, and Scylla's lair, all of this stuff, it's so cool. And I'm very thankful for them.
It's been such like an interactive experience, I would say, and like even our connection is JP, and
yeah,
like
JP,
the
man, the one and only, the
we love
legendary. Je peux. I like to call him Je peux. Every now and then I'll be like, is it Je peux? He's amazing.
He's so great. But I know you guys were just like in Greece together, like over the holidays. Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy how like, because I remember being in his dorm room and we were working on like a song at the time. I was playing on a guitar and then singing into a mic in the dorm room in this like little like box, and we're just like, okay, we're trying to make it so it's not too loud. And we talking to the roommates, being like, hey, we're just gonna make some music. They're like, cool, And of course, then there's JP making songs, there's Jorge making songs, there's Jorge always in the chapel playing that piano, So it's so cool, like how much time has passed and really getting to do stuff with people, and it's awesome.
Well, speaking of going back to college for a second, I want to like take a minute to bridge that gap between the beginning of this episode to like where we're at now, because starting again with medicine and then getting all the way to the success that you've had now and like all of this amazing, but like even taking that out, thrown into it, right? What sort of like hurdles? Because like the podcast is called Access Denied, right? Like, and we talk about rejection, we talk about like this idea of failure. And I know you mentioned that you had to break down that first video you kind of put out and all of this, but like, were there mental hurdles? Were there physical hurdles? Like, what has kind of been some of the most challenging parts of this like transition, this huge experience for you?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, so I'm going to break them down into different pieces. The first one, so let's start with like, for example, mental, right? So when I was first writing Epic and when I was really figuring out my voice, a lot of there was a time where I was really focused on like trying to submit my drafts of songs to like festivals and, to like programs and stuff, trying to get, in the hopes that it would get like, seen and picked up, and then I would get to attend things that allow me to develop my writing skills. And, I had submitted Epic to so many things, and there was especially like those really early drafts of Epic, and nothing was biting, nothing at all. And so that, that in itself is very like, man, is what I'm writing bad? Does it suck? And I'm like listening to like other musicals that are chosen. I'm like, man, I don't get it. Like, what am I not doing? So like the constant, just like, and I knew that when I was writing, it felt a little different. It was a little out there, but I really believed in it. I really wanted it to work. So I didn't just want to like, okay, I'm going to switch to how one might believe it should sound. Just, I just really wanted to stick with like, I really am trying to find my voice and trying to find that. Um, and then throughout the process of writing, there are times where these songs take me a while, or a single draft of, for example, like a single draft of a song, if I'm lucky, like emphasis on lucky, right? It might take me like a week or a few weeks. That rarely happens though. I have to be really lucky. More often than not, a draft of a song will take me at least a month or several months, and you do all this work, you orchestrate this whole song and record all these vocals and all these harmonies, and you spend like day after day and night after night trying to make these like everything and sampling ocean waves so that you can add a low frequency oscillator on them so that they sound like on beat in triplets. So you have an ocean wave that's going, and you're trying to go, and you spend all your time doing this, and you finally have a draft of a song, and then you listen to it, and it's not it. And you're like, damn, I get what I was trying to do, but it's not quite hitting. And that's one of the hard things. It doesn't matter. The amount of effort that is put into it is not the only factor as to whether a piece feels right to you in the end. And so, so I'd be doing that time after time, and like, this draft's not working. Okay, try it again. This draft doesn't work. Months pass by. I start thinking like, am I going to spend the rest of my life like huddled over this desk trying to make this song work? And there were times where, especially like that second Calypso song, which now is Not Sorry for Loving You, I was really struggling with that one in particular. I was like very depressed at that time. I was walking around my neighborhood like so sad, like listening to orchestrations on YouTube, listening to stuff, genuinely trying to like get inspired or trying to figure out what I'm doing wrong. Why isn't this hitting? I was so sad. And I kid you not, I remember the moment that I had my eureka moment. I was in the bathroom and I was scrolling through videos. I was watching videos, and a video of Uncle Iroh from Avatar: The Last Airbender came up, and I raised the volume, and I don't even remember what he said, but it was something about to find your true self. And I was like, I know what I need to do. And I got up, went to my room, took out the keyboard, and that night, I wrote the first draft of Not Sorry for Loving You, which is Calypso's song that goes, and if I pushed you, I'm not sorry for you. That song, like one after like months of failed drafts, this and that, it just clicked for a night. Finally, and I wrote that, and the next day I was like, that's what I'm talking about. So yeah. So there a lot of times like things like that, where I'll be getting like sad because time is passing, and I have no updates. Because the other thing with posting online is that there's always a pressure of having progress, right? But the truth is, there's so many times where progress is not a constant thing. It's not like a constant, oh, each week I have a new song. There are times where I make huge progress, and there are times where I'm trying and it's just not working, and I'm trying and it's just not working. Because there's no easy, like, simple, oh yeah, this always works. There's, at least for me, there hasn't been anything like that. It's always been trial and error and experimenting and exploration until I find what works. And so, there's just times where I would feel like, man, all this time is passing. I haven't made any progress. I'm just losing time, you know? But each song, like the reward for finally having figured out the song, the rewarding feeling of finally like cracking the code, finally being like, yes, this works for this moment. This conveys it how I want to convey it. This shows this arc in this character. This demonstrates this, and it's catchy. All of that in one, is so rewarding that I'm like, all right, bring on the next one every time, Would You Fall in Love with Me Again is the final song of Epic, and that alone took me like over a year. that one song took me over a year to like really crack the code, you know? So like it takes so much time, you know?
That's crazy. That's one of my favorites of the whole
Thank you.
saga, by the way. So well
Thank
done.
you
It was
so
worth
much.
the time.
Thank you. I remember like crying as I was writing it, like love with you over and over. And I knew because I was getting emotional writing it, and I'd be like, "Oh, I'm feeling something. I'm feeling something," and then just like the, but yeah. So those are like mental hurdles, right? Now, like physical hurdles. So when I started writing Epic, I was like 140 pounds, fresh face, like just that baby face, all this and that. And one of the things that was really important to me was I really wanted to, capture. I always try to like capture each of the characters through voice and stuff, but I really wanted to like physically get myself into a place where I am more like and more believably like to myself, to the character of Odysseus, And so like I had put on like 40 pounds, I was 140, now I'm like 180, and I still need to like buff it up more for when we do like the live action, this and that, but so like going to the gym super intensely, which was, a lot of it is still new to me. I can't say that I'm like a pro or anything. Doing that, having to like eat so much more, and also just like doing that and making sure I'm still on top of like posting and this, like not just posting, but like planning out like, okay, I'm going to post today. I'm doing the a progress update, and also working on the thing, and also like updating and this and that, and going to the gym, like figuring out how to like do all of that was very difficult for me, especially because I'm a person that if I don't like get enough sleep, it is so hard for me to be productive. Like if I feel like I'm averaging like 6 hours, but if I can get like 7, I'm like, oh yeah, that's amazing. But yeah, just so like those physical hurdles, and it's still an ongoing like process for me. I'm not like out here with like a 6-pack or anything like that, But it's something that like all of these things coming together proved to be a huge obstacle for me, but also allowed me to really get into like the headspace. I was like in my hermit mode, where I was just like, I'm not talking to anybody. I'm on my grind. I'm like writing songs. I'm posting. I'm going to the gym and this and that.
I love so much of what you have just said. I always call these like nuggets of wisdom, right? When people like share like little things, but like seriously, like to sit here and say like it took you a year to write.
Yeah.
Would you fall in love with me again? Like that is so powerful, because like so often when things don't work out immediately, it's so easy to just be like, it's not gonna work out. It's not gonna happen. But having that perseverance, being able to continue forward, and knowing like once you get that eureka moment is gonna just, it's like a drug, right? Like it just like when it hits, it's just this dopamine hit. Like, oh my God.
It's so funny. You would think that I'm like a masochist at some point, because it's like, no, it got to the point too where like because my parents would see that I'm just like super bummed out, and like I'm just like sad, and all day, they're trying to be in good spirits, and I'm just like bummed, super sad. And it got to a point where at one point like my dad was like, I was telling him like, man, I just can't figure this song out. I can't figure it out. And he's like, you said that last time. Like they'll be like, is it that time of the month where you're just like, oh, I can't figure out the song. Oh, look how he can't figure it out. But now he's going to go on a walk because he's sad. Oh, and he figured it out the next week.
No, but that's actually powerful though.
Like, yeah, well, it was because they were like, even though like for me, it felt every time that I got sad, it felt like a real new and true and more devastating reason than the last to be sad, because I just couldn't figure it out. I cannot explain how depressed I get when I can't figure out a song. I get like, you think I'm like super dramatic. I get so sad. I don't want to talk to anybody. I can't sleep. I'm like, at middle of the night, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna try this thing. And then I get mad and I get frustrated, and I'm like, I don't want to talk to anybody. Most of my parents like recognize that after a while. They'll be like, yeah, you're gonna get it because you always do this. So yeah, and I love them for it. It was nice because they allowed me to like kind of zoom out and be like, hey, I do get depressed every single song. But, for me, it feels real every time. For me, it feels severe.
My therapist always tells me, bringing therapy into the conversation, but she always tells me,
No,
like, having
totally.
that evidence of, like, hey, you got through this once before. You can do it again. And having your parents there, like, reminding you of that, even though it felt like its own version of tragedy every time, like, is still, like, so helpful, I can imagine. Like, all right, pursue it, keep moving, let's pick it up, it's gonna happen, it's gonna work out. And if not, like, we'll figure it out anyway. Like, we'll pivot.
Totally.
Everything's gonna be okay.
Literally, it would be like, what's wrong? I can't figure this song out. And they're like, oh, what about my parents are always trying to help, and they're like, they'll listen to me talk about it. They'll be like, well, have you tried this? And I'll be like, no, that can't work because this and this and that. And I'm so mad, I can't figure it out. And they're like, well, you said that last time. And I'm like, yeah, but this time it's different. They're like, you said that last time. Each time, but it was different. Every single time it was a new problem that I had to solve with each song. And like, because I want, oh, it needs to sound different. This character needs to be like this, and this arc needs to happen in this song, and these plot events need to happen in this song, so that in this song I just focus on these two characters, all of these things. And they're like, okay.
That's so parent of them. That's
yeah.
truly.
Yeah, and I love them, and they're always so helpful. My mom voiced Odysseus's mom in the underworld, and my dad voices Hephaestus, the god of the forge, right? And yeah, my dad helped me build this booth. I feel like I should say I helped him build the booth because he was the leader of this. I was just the assistant, right?
Am seeing the time right now, and we've been talking for 50 minutes, and I don't want to take so much of your time, but I do want to just say one final thing and one final thought that has come to mind from this conversation is, I feel like a lot of time with the arts, you see the end result, right? You don't see that process of how something is made. You don't see the moments where things are not progressing. You don't hear about that. And the fact that you're so genuine and authentic about sharing that, and you have been from the start, is something that is so amazing to me. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted you to come on Access Denied, actually, because
thank you.
I'm so serious though, because it is so difficult, I feel like, for people to be able to see themselves pursuing something creative because they feel like they're at a stopping point, and that they can't get over it, they can't push through, there's not a path, and you've given people a path.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Before we go, can I ask you my 4 questions I ask all of my
Yes, you can.
Let's go.
I'm ready.
Lock in. Okay. So first of all, if you're having a bad day, what is a song that you can put on that will immediately kind of boost your mood? It might not get you on your feet all the way, but it's gonna raise those endorphins.
I have several. Do I have to name only one?
No, you can name as many as you want.
Okay, so there's I Wish by Stevie Wonder. The one's like bum 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 bum. It's in Happy Feet. That one gets me going. There's also there's these songs by Silk Sonic. There's Smoking Out the Window, and there's also I'm gonna leave the door open, and there's also, oh my god, there's Skate to Me Baby. Those songs are get me. Those songs, I hear it, I'm like, skate to me every single time. There was one song that I have an emotional attachment to, and it's Viva La Vida by Coldplay, because it would come on every now and then when my mom was playing songs, and we would always sing along to it, and so that one holds a special place in my heart. Because, if we're if she's if I'm washing dishes, or if she's cooking or something, and we're just in the same area and that song comes on, we're always oh, I'm singing along to it. So that one, I love that one a lot.
You listed only bops, so that's incredible.
Thank you.
Who knew that the guy that could write 40 unique songs for a concept album could have good taste in music?
Thank you.
Yes. Question number 2. Yes. When you're having a bad day, again, I call it a rejection rescue kit. What's something that you're reaching for? What's an activity you're doing that's again, something you do to help you through a tough time?
Video games. My
Yes.
PlayStation. My PlayStation, literally, oh my gosh, that or YouTube, right? And what I mean by that is like if I'm going through like if I really can't figure out a song, there is genuinely a benefit to taking a step away from something for a bit, right? And I think there was a lot of time where I was like scared or I didn't want to do it because I felt like, oh, I'm giving up, or oh, this and that, or oh, no, I need to keep trying. I need to keep trying, right? I need to keep banging my head against this wall because at some point the wall is going to break. When in reality, you just got to take a step away, and in doing something else, you might find out you can just go around the wall. Right. So for me, it was like I would stop and I would go play some video games. And in playing the video game, I give my brain a break. I might come back and see like, oh, I didn't think of it like this. Or I might be playing the video game and I get inspired from the game. Or I'm going on a walk listening to a video essay and I'm like, oh, and I think of some writing thing that I didn't think of before, or I just go and listen to music. But basically, it is taking a break with things that entertain me, like a TV show that I like, that I'm binging, a video game, or a video essay.
I love it. I think there's a lot of truth to getting away from a project, especially if it's like
Yeah.
troubling you, and removing it from your brain entirely, doing something completely different is so helpful. It's like a
Totally.
reset
Yeah.
button almost. Yeah.
Yeah, literally. And it helps so much, because like it's so easy when you're in it to think like, no, I just got to keep trying and eventually crack the case. But when you're so laser focused on it, right? It is so easy to like not be thinking about other solutions to whatever the problem is, right?
Question number 3. What is the
Yes.
last thing that you did scared?
Ooh, the last thing I did scared. I went on, so I'm terrified of roller coasters, right? And rides. And I'm like working my way up trying to get like better at them. Because when I was a little kid, I went on this one ride called the Caja de Muerto, which is like you just strap on and you spins like a giant thing like this, and that scarred me for life. I was like too young and I was too short, and it scarred me for life. But I've been getting better at them, and very recently I went to Disneyland and I went on Tiana's Bayou Adventure, which has like a big drop at the end, and I was freaking out. I was like, because again, I'm terrified of all rides, right? And we're like going up, and we're near the top, and I'm like, screw it. And I screamed, but I screamed too early, so we were still at the top. And when I finished, it was like, ah! Again. So I did 2 screams, right?
Oh
But
my God.
and it went so smoothly. I want to go on it again. It was great, and yeah. So I think that was the last thing I did, where I was like very, very scared.
That's a blast. Love that so much. Final question for you. What is a final nugget of wisdom that you would like to leave with the listeners today?
Final nugget of wisdom.
No pressure.
I just can't stress enough how powerful it is to believe in someone. Truly. When you, because of course, I can say like believe in yourself, but I mean like in terms of community, like believing in each other and believing in others it's like magic, and I will forever be thankful for everybody who believes in me and has believed in me. And really, because in those times where they're super depressed and they're super down on themselves, I would hear in my voice that like there's all these people, there's people rooting for you, even if it's just one person rooting for you, even if it's you rooting for you, but the power of really believing in someone, so yeah, believe in
That's
each other.
beautiful.
'Cause
Oh my God.
sometimes believing in someone is what's gonna get them to get it, really,
Oh,
So, yeah.
what a great note to end on. Jorge, where can everybody follow your journey?
Thank you for asking. So I am on all the social medias as either Jorge Rivera-Herrans or J. Herrans. Honestly, if you just type one of my names or nicknames, it'll come up. So yeah, I'm on TikTok, I'm on YouTube, and I have a link to my official playlist for Epic on Spotify, and I recommend it. Yeah, it'll know it's mine because it has like my name as the user who made the playlist. But yeah.
I'm going to link everything in the show notes, y'all. So be sure to check out Jorge because he's epic, if I do say so
Thank you.
myself. I had to do it at least once. Thank you so much for coming on. Y'all, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next week. Bye!
Bye.
And that concludes another episode of Access Denied. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you like this week's episode, be sure to hit that subscription button and notification bell here on YouTube, or go check us out on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss another episode. We have so much exciting content coming out for season 2. You're not going to want to miss it. I'd like to give a huge shout out to JP Warner Sound for dropping this sick beat that you're listening to right now. And finally, if you'd like to rep your love of Access Denied, you now can with our very exciting merch line, featuring a very special Access Denied mug so that you can sip your morning tea while you listen to me spill the accessibility. Anyways, friends, thank you so much once again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Bye!